Now I'm just going to show you what I have been doing to the pieces, and we're going to do a little bit of lining, to show you how you would put it in this piece, and then we will attach the hairbands, and then we're good to go. So this is the one that I've been working on. So you can have it here, you can have it further down, behind the ear. So I need to work out exactly where I think it sits, but on me, that feels perfect, and it actually feels quite secure, so it's quite good. So it's just a new, different design. I've got a curl going around here just to support it, so it's not just a complete flat over one. You know, that's fine, you can do that, but I just wanted to spice it up a bit for you guys. So that one, now I've got lots of lovely detail on this that we were putting on. And it doesn't need that much else on it. A hostessy wedding, or 1950s. So if I wanted to put a brooch on here, I think it would take away from the lovely detail, as it was very delicate. So some little Swarovski crystals could be good on there. If I wanted to put some feathers on there, maybe, but then not quite sure really. They'd have to be very thin and just, you know, not that much going on. A little bit fluffy, maybe a bit tiny. So also I have a quill here. I mean, this sort of thing, if you want it to go up, if you want to be a bit crazy, but otherwise the colour's wrong, it's too white, and that distracts from the shape. So I really don't think it needs that much, except maybe a little bit of veiling. So this beautiful little bit of veiling, just see how that adds to it. It gives it more of a 50s look, and that can just sort of sew inside before I put the lining in. That can go underneath. But when you do want to do that and you want to put things underneath, you'll also then have to remember that it's going to be fitting to the head a bit more, and it's you know, going to be a little bit tighter to the head and where it comes out. So you could just do little stitches right on the very bottom, just scrunch it slightly, have a little bit coming over the piece just to sort of make it all blend together, and then it would just come straight down across the face. So that is a idea to put on. This other one that I was working on, the more of the teardrop shape, decided it's coming over the head like that. Now normally I would have a curved piece as well, but I actually want to accentuate this rounded piece more than the curve, because the curve is quite dramatic on its own, so that can be an added piece. So you could have something going following it, which I normally do, or this time I wanted to accentuate the curve, so the curly bit, so I've put more of a circle on there. But it's up to you on whatever design you want to do. So I've put a bit of netting in the middle to soften it slightly, then the lattice without it rolling the edges. I could do that, but this time I just left it. I could spray it a bit as well, spray it a bit silver, and then just a little star anise in the middle there. So I could have had this point coming down, going towards the back, not showing it at all, middle of the head, however way you want it. If I'm going to have it though, I'm going to have it actually flat to the head. So you could also have it raised up, and then you could put something underneath, but this time I'm going to have it flat. So with this one I'm going to use elastic and put that on in a minute. So now we'll do the lining. But first of all, I just want to show you something with feathers. I'm just going to show you the feathers then. So this one, I've cut it and shaped it, and this one was as it was naturally. So a little bit messy, bits here, bits this side, not really sitting right up here, bit of a mess. This is a goose feather. This one nice and trimmed. And then you can do things like ears, angel wings, whatever you want to call it. But it is quite nice to have them going up and straight across and shooting across the piece. So you could have a band coming right across and then these going over, or just having one, or cross them over at the bottom and have them on a piece. Can be quite dramatic, or any way you fancy. Or just having one lifted up in the air as if it's just flying in the air. You just have a bit of wire coming up and wire across, down, and then going over the head, just sort of have a hovering feather flying in the air. So this one's going to be made into this one. So to do that, you just get this top bit and pull this down. So not pulling out, not going that way, I'm going straight down. I'm not cutting it, I'm ripping it, because then you get a nice clean line. If I cut it, you'd have little fuzzy bits right near close to the edge. So I'm literally taking it all off. Right up to the top as much as I can. So that's all clean. Then under here, well, this fuzzy bit's a bit messy, so we can rip that out as well. Then with the oil of your hands, if you just run it over the feather, then it can help to get them back into place. And then you want a bit of trimming. So depending on what you want, but I would chop off the top little bit just at the very end. And then work my way down to the near the edge and then back in again. I'm just going to do a line which is sort of going out from the point here out to here by chopping some of that off, and then actually I'm going to take a little bit more off the bottom here because that's a big space there that's I don't think it's going to join together, so we could just rip this off as well. Rip it off. So you could have an arrow like that, or I could do what I've done is come out slightly and then come back in again. Close to the end there, and then tidy it up. You want reasonably sharp feathers for this. Scissors, sorry. Reasonably sharp scissors for this. I'm going to sort out my top area here. So what I'm doing is I've got my two fingers holding it here, and then my other fingers, these ones, are just balancing it. So I'm holding it like that to be able to show you. Normally I would hold it a bit more like this, but so just to show you, I've got my two fingers underneath there balancing it, and it's between the thumb and finger, holding it there, so it's easy for me to cut, because I'm sort of building a ledge, because if I just hold it in air, it'll wobble about. So I'm trying to secure it a bit more so it doesn't wobble. I need a bit of sharper, smaller feathers just for the little end there. So there, we've got two nice ones. One is bigger than the other. This one actually can do a bit more with a bit more trimming. So again, thumb and finger, the other finger's just supporting it. Run my fingers up it because my fingers are oily, just naturally oily. Help put it together. And then this side. So you can't see what I'm doing because I'm doing it that way. So just get in there a bit closer. So then you've got this point. So we've got one going whoop, here, and then coming thinner down to the end here. So a bit like this. And then they can either cross over at the bottom, you can have them going that way, same way, or opposite way, crossing or not crossing, however you fancy. And that could be quite a nice detail to be putting on a bridal piece, or maybe even just one. But say I was going to put it on here, that would then be too much because we've got all this roundness, then we've got sharpness, we've got another sharpness. It's too much happening. So we won't put it on that. But if you are going to put it on something, it would have to be very plain. This one here, it's got too many beady bits going on and it's the wrong colour again. But if that was whiter, it didn't have anything happening here, then maybe one of those or two of those would be good. So normally I'm always saying do things in threes and odd numbers, but something as severe as this, you could have two, because you've got one, which is great, very severe, but three of this particular feather would be too much because it's just so dramatic. Unless you had a very big round hat, then it can pull it off. Then I would put, say, 5 and really make it more dramatic, or even more than that and really dramatic. But just a simple one like this, sometimes it is nice just to have two. So the rules can be broken on occasionally. Don't worry about it too much. Depends on the design of the whole piece. And you've got 3 elements. So you've got one which is quite a big element and then 2 other things. Let's get through to some of these little bits and then I'm going to do lining for you. So with the lining, you want to just make sure that you're going to have enough. This piece is on the bias because I have it, I know where it is. So this is my piece. I know that the bias is running through here. Stretchy, and I want to leave at least an inch at the end just in case. Just run that along. All right, I've got enough. I'm just going to mark with a pencil. This fabric here is quite thick, so with a pencil it won't go through. Don't ever use a marker pen because that will go through. You could use a biro, but I would suggest against it because you never get it off. But a light little pencil or chalk. Chalk is best. Make sure you've also got the right side. So I've got the nice side is not being touched by any chalk or anything else. Just sort of mark this now. It's moved slightly, so I haven't got enough on my end, so I just move it again so I know I'm going to have enough. And check this side again. Move that out a bit. Okay, I'm still going to keep that in place because I don't want to take it all off completely, cut this out and then try and figuring out exactly where it's going. So I want to pin this. There, just in 2 places before I cut it. And I can just cut this out. then I could just check again to make sure that would be enough to cover the whole thing. But we're going to put it on the inside, but that's just to measure it. And then we can move it inside. Make sure, because of this design actually, it's good that this is okay on both sides. You have to think about that, because this design is twisting around that way. So I have had to, so I've cut it like that, put it underneath, then one end is going that way and the cloth is going that way, so I've had to turn it around to make sure it's matching up, because we want it to be following the same way when we're going inside. So good job, my fabric is the same on both sides. Again, if you've got any creases, then you can just steam them. If you have a little bit of spray glue, you could put a little bit inside here, not too much, because otherwise it will seep through the fabric. So just a tiny little light spray, then come in and just push this down. So this in the middle sits down a little bit, otherwise it tends to fall out. You know, you can have it really tight anyway, but you don't want any sort of bagginess, so you can do that, or you can try without. But just as an extra, you can put a little bit in, and then make sure you've got your excess going all the way around. You want, yeah, just under an inch, it doesn't really matter, a centimetre seam allowance. If you want to be exact and dressmakery, then you know, do centimetre. I like just cutting to eye, but you want some excess, and then you're going to come and fold this under and have a nice neat edge, just a few millimeters in from the edge, and then pin that, then come around, pin that. I wouldn't do my corners yet, I'm just going to work out where everything should sit. Fold it under. Down to the other side of it. Keep fiddling, and then when we do the corners, you keep fiddling, and then you've got this bit still, keep fiddling up until you get to your corner, and then you can work out how to fold that in. So then I would just go open it up again, push that little one top bit in, oops, just there, I push, sort of overlap that over the end there, and then work my sides in. If you've got too much bulk, you could just trim a bit of fabric out. Got my finger. Oh dear. You don't want any blood on this because it will never come out. But then it proves that you are a milliner. So I'm just doing that all the way up here, just pleating the sides all the way up until I get to my top again. It's got too much on the side there. You can always trim a bit off if it's too bulky. Just remember this needs to be placed just a few millimeters in from the edge. Then I've got quite a lot of bulk happening up here, so I can chop a lot of this off and then take a look. Chop a lot off on the sides. Oops, sorry. So open it out, fold the top bits down, sort of at the right level, and then the sides in. So we're getting this sort of thing here. Look, and then that can fit in, and then a little bit more fiddling. This is a very tight point, this one. So you want to chop off any excess if you're getting too much. I would work on that a little bit more, but I'm just going to pin it. Ow. Oh, done it again. For now. Okay, and then this end coming out. There, so we're just getting a nice lining in there, very pretty, flat. So the whole thing could go on the head, and then you've got this from behind. So it needs a little bit more work. And this crease here I can get out with steam, or I could have ironed it with an iron. But I love steam, hate ironing. So there we go. And then you can just sew that in with a little invisible slip stitch. So I would just stitch a tiny bit of this lining here to a little bit of the edging fabric, and then you can either push it along via the edge here, push your needle along to hide it in this fabric that is covering the whole base, or you can move your needle through the lining fabric and then out again about a centimetre. So I just catch needle, so push the needle through and catch fabric lining to edging of a hat, then push it through invisible so you don't see the needle at all, then pull the needle out about a centimetre along, and then fabric to edging, and then hide your needle again to push it along, and then come out on centimetre again. So you just want tiny little stitches on the end there. You hardly want to see it, so you want to do an invisible stitch. The only thing you're going to see is this tiny stitch when you just catch the lining to the fabric on the edge, and then you're going to push your needle inside either the lining or the edging so that you're hiding it completely, and then it's going to come out again. So your thread is going to be hidden inside all the time. So you're doing a little stitch, then you move along inside, little stitch, moving along inside, little stitch, and you're going to work your way all the way around that, doing invisible stitch. And then lastly, to keep it on the head, I'm going to use a hairband. So if that is sitting on my head, sorry, just move those, they're going to go in my head. 1 second. So it's going to sit on my head like that. So I want the hairband. This is just a metal one. Your stitches can just go around it, or you could cover it in fabric. So that'll go on there. So then I can work out where it's going to stitch to. So my hairband is going to be stitched here and here. So I can just do some little stitches over, and I would do it that way round. You could put it inside, but then you've got the lining fighting with it, and I don't want to sew it all completely down. Then I'm just going to do it in these 2 points here, because this bit will sit a little bit higher. So these 2 points here, I'm just going to go over there here, round. If I come up here, I have to hide it all in the beads, so I can come up and down and go around about 5 stitches, and then again here, and then you can put either some ribbon or your logo, something inside there, which is going to cover any of those stitches. If you don't mind seeing the stitches, you could just dab a little bit of something like a tiniest little bit of glue on there, just to stop the headband slipping around, and then I would suggest covering it. So put something on there to cover it up, or another little bit of lining, or some sort of pretty lace or something or other inside there. So because your lace could come across. Maybe if we've got a little bit here, something without beads on, so it doesn't hurt the head. This could then be placed inside, hiding a little bit of the headband, making it extra pretty, finishing it off, and then your label on top, or just your label on here. All right, so they're just 2 little stitches like we did before with that. Keep it on the head. Beautiful.